Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ASO Conversation series. I am your host, Thomas Moore. I am Director of Marketing for the Symphony. Our special guest today is Principal Flute Barbara O'Brien, who has been with the orchestra since 2002. Welcome, Barb.
Hello,
Hi. So where are you joining us from today?
I am in Bluemont, Virginia.
What are you doing in Virginia?
It's where my significant other remains and domains.
Okay. I heard you're on a farm, if I'm getting that.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it a
a
farmhouse?
300 or so acre farm.
Okay. Yeah, we were just commenting before we came on about you got your nice holiday decor back there, and you got
Yeah,
nice interesting
wallpaper.
wallpaper and everything. So yeah, it looks very festive.
Thank you.
So let's we'll start by turning back the clock a little bit to when you first joined the ASO. You almost did not take the audition that day. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. On the day of the audition, I felt completely unprepared and I panicked. I got in my car and I was driving there, and my brother's a minister. So I called him and I said, Dave, you got to call the big man up and ask him for a miracle here because I'm not ready. And he prayed with me and I calmed down and I went in and somehow I won the audition.
Well, not. I don't think that somehow. I think obviously you had the skill that that
I
we
guess
were looking for.
experience, there were a
Mhm.
lot of young people there who, they get to practice 5 hours a day. When you're working 4 or 5 jobs, you don't have that option or that luxury.
So you've over time here now you've grown into one of the not one of the more senior members of the orchestra. How have you kind of seen from a music standpoint, or just kind of how have you seen our orchestra grow during your time with us?
Well, I guess in the early years, there were certain areas of our orchestra that had some weakness, but as the years passed on, that those things strengthened. And I think under Chris's leadership, the orchestra has really grown, and also his programming is very interesting. So I've really enjoyed it. And plus the people are very nice. So it's my little safe place. I love that orchestra.
Well, that's nice. So let's now we're going to turn back the clock even further, and we're going to get back to the very beginning. Let's talk about you and your musical career. What were some, I know you mentioned that you come from a musical family. So how did you kind of get started with the flute and just music in general?
Okay, well, first of all, we sang all the time because our parents, my father sang in the Pit Glee Club, and my mother was just a natural, beautiful singer. And so when they got married, they always sang love songs in the car, and we would all chime in. So my eldest sister started with clarinet, and of course, with 8 children, there's no way my father could afford to buy me a flute. And so he was passing this instrument down from kid to kid. So Becky was first, David was second, and I was third. And when he came to me, I said, I do not want to play that thing. I heard my then teacher play a solo in my high school, and it was the most beautiful thing I ever heard. And she was an amazing flute player and went on to be like a principal player in a major orchestra afterwards. So when she found out that I wanted to start, she offered to teach me for free, and my aunt rented an instrument for me because my dad and mom couldn't afford it.
So what is it that you enjoy about playing the flute?
Well, coming up in a family of that large, I was sort of the middle kid lost in the middle. And then my parents actually, in my teen years, got divorced, and it was really a bad time for me. So the flute became sort of my savior. And so I was very good about practicing. No one had to stand over me with a stick and say, practice. My mother used to beg me. She'd say, do you have to play that song over and over again? And I'm like, Mom, it's a scale. So, I mean, I was very motivated, and I had a lot more zeal than the other siblings. I just somehow I got it.
Okay. And so kind of along that same line now, look, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. What is it that you enjoy about playing in an orchestra?
Oh my gosh. First recording I ever owned of an orchestra was of the Pittsburgh Symphony playing Brahms Symphony No. 2. And I wore that thing out. I was the summer before my freshman year in college. I played that thing over and over and over again. But really, I guess my first experience with orchestra, my school was quite small. There were only 135 in my graduating class. So you can imagine the band was not all that wonderful. So I became the representative for the district band, the regional band, the state band, the district and regional and state choruses. I did everything. And so my first experience was in district and regional orchestra. And I remember we played the Great Gate of Kiev, and there were so many kids in there. And I just when we played that, my mouth just dropped open. I was like, wow, this is what I want to do.
I know when we did that, I heard that the very first time when we did it a couple years ago, and it's just amazing hearing that live.
It's just so moving. It's so passionate. I mean, Russian music generally, there's such a passion there, and you could feel it. You could feel the excitement in the kids, and the conductor was quite, exciting too. So that made it great for me. And of course, our orchestra didn't exist in my school, so I had to audition to play in an orchestra in my sophomore year, and I didn't make it the first time, but I played in the Pittsburgh Youth Symphony from my junior year in high school until I graduated college.
Okay. So kind of thinking back to, this is a question I've asked every time we have a musician on. You kind of talked a little bit about, your older siblings played the clarinet. I don't really want to play the clarinet. I heard a flute one day at school. So do you think the musician chooses the instrument they're going to play, or do you think somehow the instrument chooses the musician?
I think the instrument chooses the musician. I think you hear something and it moves you in such a way, and that was her. It was her playing that was mesmerizing to me. If she sucked, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have chosen the flute. If I loved violin and cello, but I was pretty small, and again, with no money. Even in college, I think I intimated this to you earlier, that my mom and dad got divorced, and my mother used her divorce money to actually buy me my own flute. And I used that flute until I got into college. And then the Youth Symphony went on a tour to Europe, and I had no money. So I sold that flute to go to Europe.
Oh,
And the
wow.
Pittsburgh Youth Symphony leader, who at that time was Lauren Mazelle's mother, Marie Mazelle, had a Haynes flute that was a loaner, and she loaned me that flute until I graduated. Even when I took my first audition, I didn't own my own flute.
Oh, wow. So before we move on to some other topics here, I want to touch back on one thing. You mentioned that your family were singers, and somebody told me a little story about a singing group that you and your siblings had put together. So let's
Yeah,
kind of talk about that a little bit.
yes, my sister Becky was quite talented, and she taught us how to harmonize. So we would go in our basement and we were learning Yellow Bird and High Hopes and some other sort of Broadway songs. And my mom didn't get wind of it. My Aunt Nancy had worked with us a bit because she was living with us at the time, and she took my mother downstairs to the basement, and we sang for my mom, and my mom immediately said, "You have to try it for the Ted Mack show." I was like, "The Ted Mack show, what's that?" And so it was this famous, television show where he actually discovered quite a few, mainstream groups like the Beatles. So we thought, okay, what the heck? We're little. We don't. There's no fear here. She dressed us up like the Von Trapps, and my older sister, who was now in seventh grade, was ready to kill my mother because she had us all in braids with sailor tops and little blue skirts and white knee socks and saddle shoes. And a seventh grader, that's just like totally not right. But she took us to the district auditions, and we won. And then they went to the regional finals, and we didn't get past that because in those days they used one mic, and our voices were so tiny, and there was no way to enhance us because you sing at fairs and different places before you get to the finals. They just thought that we couldn't project, and so they kind of left us there.
Okay. Do you ever think back to, had you actually made it onto the show, perhaps our career path would have gone in a different direction?
Oh yeah. In fact, I was just speaking with our conductor in the opera because I love singing, and I still sing all the time now. And I'm sort of mad at myself that at the time I started college, I picked piano for a minor. I had no idea how to play the piano. I didn't even know where middle C was. But they made me, choose a minor. And I thought, why didn't I pick voice? Why didn't I pick voice? I would love to have gone back and done that.
Oh, I can imagine.
Now, in retrospect, I mean, my
Mm.
voice is still pretty good for an old lady. But I just think to myself, wow, I wish I would have taken lessons. It just never even occurred to me.
Mhm. So it's never too late, though, is it?
Well, let's put it this way. As an opera singer, your voice matures probably by the age of 35. You're
Mhm.
in your warble stage at 60 something. And I remember hearing actually Roberta Peters sing, beautiful singer, but not in her prime. And Renata Scotto, beautiful singers, but again, not in their prime. So
Mhm.
when they would get up high, it's sad. Their vibrato slows down quite a bit, and they can't control it. Mine's not like that because I haven't blown my voice out, but I would think you could sing, pop things and stuff like that at my age.
Sure.
Opera, maybe,
Around
Sure.
the house.
Yeah. But, I did one day demonstrate something for my conductor, through one of the Mozart operas, which is the Queen of the Night. I used it to teach kids how to support from their diaphragm, down low. And she would sing these high notes by projecting it from her diaphragm, like, like that. And so I was kidding around with my conductor, and he looked at me and said, wow, Barbara, that's pretty good. And we were laughing, but I use that a lot because the instrument, the flute, is like an extension of the human voice. A lot of what we do, we're trying to imitate the beauty of the voice.
Okay. So let's go, let's think, when did it kind of first start to form in your mind that, I can make music be my career? Obviously you've been able to, you've been able to do it here for a long time, but when did it first kind of start to, that seed get planted of, hey, I can make this be my career?
Well, I told you about the story when I was I was 11 when I started playing. And so I was later than most of the kids, and I got the flute and I just practiced all the time. And I started challenging everybody every week, and they all hated me. And I just kept moving up, moving up, moving up. Well, by the time I was in my sophomore year, Marilyn took me on in my my ninth grade year. Marilyn Prestia took me under her wing and taught me for those 2 years, ninth and 10th and 11th. And then in 11th grade, she took me to my teacher, Bernie Goldberg. That in that 10th, 11th grade time, that's when I made my decision, because I was sort of teetering with, do I want to be an English teacher? Because my favorite teacher was an English teacher. But I realized very quickly that was not going to be my major, because that was not my strong suit at all. And I don't know what I was thinking. But I was very musical from a very young age. So that's kind of the impetus. She took me under her wing. She took me to concerts. She included me in everything that she did. And it just lit the fire.
So thinking back, over your performance career, what are some of your favorite composers? Like when you get the season schedule, like what really gets you going? It's like, yes, I can't wait to play that
Well,
music.
for instance, this year, of course, we had no schedule, but somehow in Wheeling, we managed to do a couple little things, online. And so the first thing that came up on the rep was Afternoon of a Faun. And I was like, oh, I love Afternoon of a Faun, but it's also hard, So I thought I got the music out as soon as I found out they were thinking of doing this, like a month in advance, and started really working on it. But the thing I love about impressionistic music and romantic music is that it's very emotional. I mean, in Baroque, you can't really emote. It's more a practice, and it's beautiful in its own realm, and it's stunningly written, and it's just completely different. But classical's pretty, it's beautiful. And Mozart, I mean, Haydn, these things were just gorgeous. We're starting to get into that place where you can start to emote. But the romantic era and that impressionistic era, it's like such beautiful music. Brahms, Debussy, I would say probably Ravel, those are my favorites. And I do like Stravinsky. He's very different from them, but I love his writing, and I love his ideas.
Yeah, it's really good. So thinking back over your time with the ASO, are there any performances or moments that kind of stand out in your mind?
Mm. Oh, we did a musical. We did Showboat. And it was really amazing because Christopher had this ability to sort of combine the locals and some artists and the orchestra and the community all together to work this big thing. And we were up high on the stage. So we were up on this, like, I don't know, like what would you call it, riser?
Riser. Mm-hmm.
And then down in front was this staged version. I think actually was it
Or was that Porgy and Bess?
Porgy and Bess.
Yes.
And when they did Dr. Jesus, I mean, that whole scene in the rowboat, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm up high, I'm looking at the audience, I'm watching Chris, do his thing, and I'm seeing these singers, and I'm like, how much better can it get than this?
That's really, it's really good. So outside of, obviously, when you have a performance coming up, you need to rehearse, you need to practice and be prepared. How else do you prepare for a performance? Do you have any rituals, anything I have to do that certain day or to get in the right mindset?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that go into getting ready for a concert. Last year, when all this happened, I had to try to keep my chops, and that was a really tough thing with nothing to look forward to. So I started using YouTube videos of music without the instrument that was the solo. And I actually got a new head joint, so that motivated me. And I took all my etudes and I practiced and recorded everything I had with this new head joint. And then I get the recording and I play with the recording. And then I would record myself with the recording so I could hear it. Was I in tune? Was I with the video? Was the balance right? And I did a lot of things like that. And same thing when I'm preparing for something that I'm not familiar with, or even when I am familiar, I will listen to a recording that I like. For instance, when I played this little solo in the summertime, I did Carnival of Venice, I think it was, but or no, it was Carmen Fantasy
Mhm.
with Chris in the summer. And to prepare for that, I listened to Emmanuel Pahud because there's no one. I mean, there's a million fabulous flute players, but somehow he grabs me in my soul. So I listened to his recording a million times before I prepared mine. And then I did my own thing because, of course, he's got a bigger set of lungs and I had to do different breathing and different tempi. But mostly, that's how you prepare. You listen to a bunch of different things and then you form your own thing. You practice, you take things apart and put them back together again. If it's technically difficult, I might make an exercise out of it. And then when I'm ready to actually perform it on maybe a day of the performance, I always warm up properly. I always have to be there an hour early. I do my little warm up ritual and then I try not to wear myself out, but I have to be warmed up. If there's any distraction before that or during that, I'm kind of sunk.
Yeah, I'm always one of the things I've been most impressed about since I've been with the organization is just the amount of work that everybody, that all the musicians have to put into not only, like you just said, everything preparing up to the week of rehearsals, then going through the whole week of rehearsals and still having the energy to when the lights come on Saturday night to be able to deliver the type of performances that you guys all do. It never ceases to amaze me what you guys are able to do up there.
Well, it's a collaboration, and if everybody's prepared, it's a wonderful experience. We're only as good as the weakest link in that group of with which we're playing. So it's really important that everybody comes prepared, and that no one is coming in sight reading. And I believe that in this orchestra that does not happen. People try their best to be ready to go when they get there.
Mhm.
It's hard again when you're a freelancer because you've got more than one schedule to juggle. You've got traveling, you've got music out the wazoo, to prepare. And so you have to really time it. You have to say, okay, this is the date that I'm doing this. And for me, it's best I concentrate on the kind of task at hand. I prepare a little bit for that. And then once I feel like I'm ready for that, then I go to the next task and I do it in order of when they're going to arrive on my plate.
So if we could look at your playlist right now, your music playlist, what kind of music outside of orchestral music did you listen to, when you're working? What are we listening to? What do we like?
Goodness, I've got such a playlist. I like everything. So I listen to pop, I listen to Motown, I listen to um, oldies, I listen to Melody Gardot, who's one of my favorite jazz singers. And then I found a bunch of, like when you use Apple Music, if you press on Melody Gardot, they'll say, here's more like this artist. And then
Mhm.
you discover more. And I like Carrie Underwood. I like some, of a little of everything, but I
Mhm.
don't listen to a lot of classical because I do it for a living, and that's terrible to admit, but it's true.
No, I could see that. It's like, because you want to have that work, you want to separate work from life kind of
It's
in that
exactly
way.
why.
So what kind of do you have any particular Motown in general, or is it just all over? Because that's something that I go back to every once in a while. And when I do, I realize how good so much of that
Oh
was.
my gosh, Diana Ross, I loved her.
Mhm.
I loved Marvin Gaye. There were so many groups at that time because that's the year I grew up in, of course, being in the 60s. I'm 64, so that music was like we danced. I loved to dance. I would go to all the school dances, and that was the music being played at the time. So my sister was more into the rock and roll thing. She was a
Mhm.
headbanger. Oh my goodness. She actually got a bedroom for herself at one point and she painted mushrooms on the wall. And my mother went in and then she had a big iron butterfly. My mother's like, what in the world did you do to your bedroom? But I never did any of that. I just liked to listen to it,
Mhm.
So I would say I liked, it's Color My World. I like Chicago. I liked
Mhm.
the more sort of orchestral rock musicians.
Yeah. So it's been an unfortunate year for everyone. We haven't been able to perform since February, but this fall you've been very active during our ongoing interlude season, which has been really great. One of the things that you did earlier what you were part of a live stream with Kyra Kester and Jenny Robinson from Jilly's Music Room. Talk a little bit about how that all came together and how, the performance went that night.
Well, a lot of us have had to take other jobs because of this COVID-19. I haven't even gotten any unemployment yet. So I know that Kyra's now banking, and I think that Jenny has moved in with her sister just to make ends meet. And so when I found out that there were these menus, I hurried up and wrote to them and asked them if they would be willing to do the flute trios. And they said yes. And of course, when you're working another job, the guys that were involved, the girls, they couldn't have gotten this together. So I did all the preparation. I bought all the music. I printed all 3 parts. I separated them. I made everything for everybody. And then I sent them to them so that they could prepare their parts. And then we planned 1 rehearsal the night before. We went to Akron and we rehearsed. And then the next day we rehearsed a little more. And then that night, when we played, that was like our performance. So we had 2 rehearsals and a concert, basically. Unfortunately, that day, I don't know if they told you this, but I have carpal tunnel and I did a little bit too much beforehand. So during the first piece, this hand was like Novocaine. I couldn't even feel it.
Oh boy.
So my fingers were going like this, but I don't even know how they were going like this because I couldn't feel it.
Well,
but it went pretty well and it was fun. It was definitely muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I remember turning it on. I was at home, and when it came on, I actually put it on the TV, and just the look and the sound of it it was really impressive.
Well, it's a lot of hard music. I picked a real program, and they were ready to kill me because we were all a little rusty.
No, but the 3 of you, and I think that that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, just about the level of professionalism within this within this orchestra. The fact that the 3 of you could come together on relatively short notice, work together, and put out something that really made the organization proud and really represented us well is kudos to you guys.
Well, we had fun, and we said we'd like to do it again, in different circumstances. The one thing that was a little bit distracting is the shields that we had to use for COVID, because when the shields were there, it was difficult for us to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound was going in a different direction than we needed it. So sometimes we were, like struggling to keep together, which is, a whole new ball of wax if we have to continue to do this, with the shields. But we did, we pulled it out of our hats.
Plus, probably when you signed up for all this, you probably never thought you'd be playing in a trio in a bar.
No, I didn't, but I liked it. And Julie's room was perfect. And with that
Mm-hmm.
little stage, that was fantastic. And classical music in a bar. Who knew, right?
Exactly. Yeah, she has a nice setup over there.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'd do it again.
Well, there might be coming up something down the road. You never know.
You never know.
We can't promise anything, but you never know. So then later on, you also were able to team up with Jody Gwynn, our principal harp, to provide music for one of our episodes of our unorchestrated podcast. Kind of talk a little bit about how that came together. And I know there were some challenges because you guys weren't able to be in the room together when you recorded the music.
Yeah, that's my fault. So Jody prepared all the music and sent it to me. She picked everything because she had to be in control because her instrument is much more difficult than mine. So for me to pick music, but the piece that we picked, actually Chris picked, and Jody was completely unfamiliar with it. So she said that she couldn't do the whole thing, that she would do the first movement. So we prepared it, and we were meeting on a particular Tuesday, and I got in the car and I was all ready to go. I practiced, I recorded it, it's good to go. And I arrived and I had no flute.
The one thing you need.
It was under my counter. So I called Fran and I apologized profusely. And I said, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be doing this today. And I went home, and it occurred to me that all we had to do was both of us record it. She would start by recording her part, send it to me. I think she sent it in QuickTime. And then I recorded it on my iPhone in my kitchen over top. And I tried to make the balance good. I tested it several times until I got it to where it was at least, acceptable. And then I sent it to you guys, and you put it on the podcast. Now, Chris did ask me later to make a separate recording of myself, but I was at the time playing an extremely difficult opera, which we just finished in Pittsburgh. And so I said, I hate to disappoint, but there's just no way. I was playing 3 instruments at the time. And so but that podcast was so cool and the piece was really lovely. It's a harpsichord or a harp, I mean, concerto. So, I mean, I hope someday she and I get to play it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it came out really, really well. And for anyone who wants to go hear it, it is on episode 4 of our podcast series, which is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google. You can access it off the ASO website. Definitely, if you haven't had a chance to go listen to it yet, you really should. Episode 4. The music is really, really wonderful.
That's awesome.
So, any outside of music, you have what kind of hobbies, interests? What do you do in your copious amounts of free time?
Oh, well, I've
Which
been
is
doing
probably
a lot
little.
of this. I like to take photographs with my iPhone because they keep getting better and better. I had actually requested to get a phone, or I mean, a camera for my birthday this year, but Adam decided to get me the new iPhone because he feels that they just keep getting better and better. And so I've been practicing a lot on this iPhone. I've got over 125,000 pictures on it. And I don't know where he is right now. Do you have those pictures?
Uh-oh.
Oh, he printed them. Excellent. So,
We're getting an extra special guest here. Have him come on in and say hi.
come on in and say hi, he said. Oh, okay. So we're just printed them on regular paper. This is one of the photographs I took.
Oh, wow.
This is in Marion, Massachusetts, out of the home that we stay in every summer for a festival. And that's the view out of the porch. It's called a belvedere. Obviously, beautiful vista is the word, what it means. And it's just the most beautiful room. And then I got a little artsy one day. My one of the guys that worked here for Adam had these tennis shoes on, and I took a picture of his tennis shoes because I thought they were great. And then, is that the only 2 you did, honey? Okay, he's bringing more. I took some of my Christmas tree this year because I was proud of it. I went to Macy's one day and they had all their displays out, and all of them had these on the top, instead of a bow with stuff coming down or a star, they had these sprigs going out like a teepee.
Mhm.
And I thought it looked so cool. Oh, this is another one of the farm truck. Do you have the Christmas one? Oh, okay. This is the farm truck. And I caught the sunset on the window of his truck.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
It was just an accident. You know how you just notice something and you go, oh gosh, I've got to get that on tape. You know, I've got to get that picture. And so that's been sort of a great hobby for me, kind of keeping my sanity. I've been walking a lot. I was actually up to 7 miles until I injured myself. Too much for an old lady.
Oh, come on.
I was walking 7 miles. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's very good. We
Yeah.
got to keep moving, you know,
I know. Well,
especially.
sitting is not a good thing for me. I just go bonkies.
Mhm.
I was telling him it's like being the prisoner of Zenda when I don't have any work.
So I know it's hard. It's, you know, this whole year has just been hard on everybody. And
Oh gosh, I don't know how some people do it. I mean, at least I've got a beautiful place to stay here. You know, he has actually 2 farms, and this house is built in the 1870s, and the other was in the 1700s, late 17s. And it's beautiful country here. It's mountains. It's stunning.
are they working farms?
They're working farms. He's a cow calf operation, so he works really hard every day.
Oh, wow.
This was in the fall at a little farmer's market called Knoll's Farm Market.
Oh, there you go. How fun is that?
And I saw it and I said, Adam, use my camera. So he took that one, and this is my Christmas tree.
Oh, there we go.
So you see the sprigs on the top?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the idea of the decorator at the store. And I liked it so much. I bought all those sprigs. I took them right off the top of their tree. And I went home and I decorated it, and I had a ball. And then I decorated his tree. I decorated a neighbor's tree, and I decorated 4 in my house.
Okay, so you're keeping busy, which is good.
I like to decorate. So every season, my house it's decorated of the season. So if it's summer, there's flowers all over the place in my kitchen and everywhere. And if it's fall, it's leaves. And if it's winter, it's, you know, garlands and all kind of, you know, it's crazy. It's like Hallmark. Which way is my favorite channel?
All right, that's good. I think we're nearing the end of our time together, and we've said a lot here, but have we said it all? Anything that you want to get out there that we haven't covered?
All I'd like to do is say thanks for the conductor taking a chance on me as principal, and I've really enjoyed it. I love
Great.
it.
We've obviously everybody loves having you be part of it. So thank you, Barb, for taking time to join us today. And
Thank you.
thank you to everyone for watching. We will be back soon with another episode in the ASO Conversation series. And until then, everyone, please stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.